Hello everyone, it's me, that divination witch. I hope you're doing well. Now, I'm back with another witchy video. This is in my series of spirits and deities I've met over the years, because if you're new here, being that divination witch, I do a lot of readings for people, a lot of deity confirmations and spirit confirmations, so I get to speak with a lot of different spirits I wouldn't normally have the opportunity to, so I'm very grateful for that. And I started this series to be like, okay, well, I'm going to share my experiences, even if they're not always so in depth, because sometimes, especially when it comes to deity work, there's not a lot of information out there about some deities and some spirits and cultures. So I thought, well, I'll do this to try and help people where I can. So here we go. Now, this amazing goddess I've been asked to speak about several times, so I'm finally getting around to it. That's the goddess Tiamat, and she is known as a draconian, primordial goddess. Very powerful. So I will explain a bit about what I know and my experience with her. So let's get into it. Alright, if you're new here, hello, welcome, I'm Sarah, I'm that divination witch, and I hope you stick around. This is a safe space. I like to say that at the beginning of every video because it's true. There's too many gatekeepers, edgelords, nasty people in spiritual circles. I'm not about that. Everyone's welcome here. Nobody's judged. Be pleasant, be civil, ask questions. Feel free. Nothing's a silly question. Everyone's got to start somewhere. Ask away. I'm happy to help where I can, and I encourage people to help each other as well, so please do. I've also got a link tree below as well, which I would be so grateful if you could check out. I am offering readings, I teach tarot, other spiritual lessons as well, incoming on Patreon and memberships. And if you join Patreon, we've got a lovely little community going where we're all helping each other. So yeah, if you're interested, check it out. Thanks. So Tiamat. Like I said at the beginning, yeah, she is a draconian goddess, very primordial and ancient. So she comes from ancient Mesopotamia / Babylon. Now, even to me, I'm no historian. Babylon, Acadia, Sumeria, Mesopotamia, all these cultures, you know, there's some of the most ancient cultures that have been recorded on planet Earth. And their deities kind of cross over with each other sometimes. So even to me, who is a pagan and does these readings for people, I just trust the deity. When they come through, they tell me, right, I am, say, Inanna, or I am Ishtar. And they tell me, oh, there's a difference. If there's a difference, there's a difference. And I just relay the message. But even me, I get confused because I'm no historian. Like, which one's older than the other? Which one came first? When did the crossover? What's all the nuances, etc.? Because then, to add extra confusion into it, they crossed over with Hermeticism and the Canaanites, and everything just crossed over. And that time period in general, as it went on, that then crossed over with Greece and Rome as well, in with all of this huge melting pot of information, of cultures, of deities. And then we lost a lot of information, especially at the Library of Alexandria. It burned down, apparently. We lost it all. You know, there's so much, so similar, so different. You know, there's a lot of nuances. So, and now that's out the way. Tiamat is a goddess found in Mesopotamia and Babylonian mythology, and she is very, 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 very powerful. Her archetype is a creator goddess, and she is known as this divine dragon goddess that is anthropomorphized, wow, that was a big word, as a lady, as a woman, as the feminine. And she was one of the first ever beings in existence, and she created everything and everyone along with her partner. Ansu or Anpu, I will just get that right. Abzu, sorry. So along with her first partner, Abzu. So there were two primordial energies that came together and created everything. And that is, in a lot of mythologies, I think straight away I know it's nothing to do with Mesopotamia, but Izanami and Izignagi and Shintoism, the feminine, the masculine, come together. Everything's created from there. And that's who she is. She was represented in this draconian dragon aspect. Now, she birthed a lot of different deities, and then they themselves were reproducing and so on. And in a nutshell, her mythology, it goes that the Babylonian king of the gods, Marduk, fought against her in the end. So it's a long story, but it echoes ancient Greek myth, because I know that a bit better, even though I know Greeks came after, and the Greeks are probably inspired by this. But you've got your primordial deities like Gaia, who birthed the first deities, and it went on from there, and then finally you got Zeus stood up to the Titans, Marduk stood up to Tiamat. They'd had a disagreement, let's say, and Tiamat created, I suppose it's in the mythologies, it's said that they're monstrous beings and monsters to fight her battle, sort of thing. And that's what Gaia did as well. She created Typhon, for example, who was the primordial monster being in ancient Hellenic myth. So it's very similar. Tiamat and Gaia, I do feel a similar energy with them, but you can tell, just me being who I am, pagan, psychic, who experiences these spirits, Tiamat's energy feels older even than Gaia's, but still, Tiamat's very much that primordial, feminine energy that created everything and everyone. And she holds a lot of rage as well. She does hold a dark side, but so does Gaia, except in modern times, at least, and in modern paganism, the dark side of Gaia isn't explored as much, I don't feel. When you think of Gaia, you think fluffy love and light, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and that's lovely, and that's so true. But Gaia is also rage, and also darkness, and also destruction. You know, nature, if you think of just nature has such beautiful things. We've got forests and flowers and, you know, beautiful sunshine, but then that beautiful sunshine could turn into, you know, an arid landscape where it doesn't rain for days, especially places in Africa like that. And volcanoes erupting and earthquakes happening and destroying the world, you know. So it's the balance. And I feel like this is just the way I'm explaining it. This is my UPG on it, I suppose, in this way. But when people say Tiamat, it's the volcano, it's the earthquake, it's the destruction side that is correlated with Tiamat compared to Gaia, where it's the fluffy side. But they're one and the same. It's the same archetype, but a different name, in a way. And Tiamat came first, and yes, she is from one of the most ancient cultures, and the Draconic side as well. When it comes to dragons, they were demonized too, especially when it comes to biblical teachings, and I'm not meaning to just pick on Christians, but in all Abrahamic faiths. See, dragons were always about knowledge and life. Serpents were as well. It was about life, hatching from the egg, rebirth. The cosmic serpent is the DNA strand. It's life. It's you know, the feminine. That's what the serpent was about. Dragons were about, and it's been vilified, as with many things like that. So I feel because Tiamat is so ancient, like she retains the draconic aspect, even if it's been demonized, doesn't matter, she still retains that. And therefore she does have a reputation, especially in modern paganism, that like Gaia with the fluffy side, Tiamat has a reputation on the darker side of things. And she's found in a lot of left-hand path practices, I've noticed. Now, I don't know the whole ins and outs. I mean, I've got a grimoire of Tiamat. I've never followed it. I just have it to look at. Like, I was curious. It's someone's left-hand path practice. She is involved in a lot of, I don't want to degrade or disrespect anyone, but a lot of like what I'd call edgy things. It doesn't mean they're all edgy, don't get me wrong. But a lot of left-hand path dark practices. But even though that's the case and that's all well and good and fine, and she's capable of that, of course, it's not all she is. It's like Hecate. They're not all one thing. And, well, if Tiamat's involved, why don't you invoke Gaia? It's two sides of the same coin, two faces to the same thing, in my experience. So I hope that made sense so far. A lot of this is my understanding of things and my UPG. Now, when she comes through, she is so powerful, and she doesn't always speak in words. I've noticed this, and I've said it before in these videos, especially primordial energies seem, in my experience, through my abilities, they seem to speak more in feelings and visions than words, than language, because language is very human. And although gods, goddesses, deities can understand every language that ever was and ever will be, I think the more primordial ones sort of transcend that. That's my understanding anyway. I know Kernanos does that all the time, speaks in visions and feelings, and she's very much the same. There might be the odd time she's spoken words, but when she comes through for people, it's more in feelings and how she makes me feel as well, and what she makes me see. Now, I've never worked with her. I've been curious about her, hence I've got that grimoire, but I've never worked with her. Maybe one day we will, I don't know, never say never, because there was a point in my life, you see, and this is how I started researching her and why I got the grimoire, and I've mentioned it on the channel as well. I did do some dragon magic myself, and I was down that rabbit hole a while, and obviously she's a dragon goddess. And so I was interested. Now, of course, you might have heard of her from Dungeons and Dragons, and that's a fictionalized version of her. That's just fiction taken from reality, let's say it like that. A lot of Dungeons and Dragons, although it's interesting, I'm a bit of a nerd, I like Baldur's Gate and stuff. Some of their deities are from real life, are from real mythologies in the real world. But the characters of the deities aren't accurate, is what I'd say. Like Tyr, for example, he's a war god, and I'm sure he's not a war god, I can't remember, but he's a bit different in Dungeons and Dragons. That's just an example. Anyways, so yes, because I was into dragon magic for a while, that's how I went down a rabbit hole to find out who she is and more about her. So I've never worked with her, maybe, I don't know. I respect the hell out of her though. I think she's an amazing energy, tough energy, someone who'd put you through your paces, but very transformative. Someone who will get you stronger, who will help you unlock your inner power, unlock knowledge that you need to unlock, and, pull you out of depths of despair sort of thing, get you empowered. That's what I feel she is. She can be a mother like that. Very nurturing in that regard as well, but also helps you fight through destruction and transformations. I think she's very transformative in my opinion. So how do I see her when she comes through? And I like doing this bit. So she can come through as a woman, and when she does come through as a woman, I know it's stereotypical, most deities are very beautiful, and she's no exception. Very beautiful, tanned skin, Middle Eastern looking, sometimes has like jewels around her, brown hair. Doesn't wear much in the way of clothes, but it feels like a fine silk headscarf. Very minimal though. But more often than not, to be honest, she chooses to come through as a dragon. And when she comes through as a dragon, boy, do I feel that. Now, dragon energy is very powerful, and if you know energy, this is my UPG. it's not written in any book anywhere. But if you're an energy worker, if you can sense and feel energy of spirits, etc., if you're in the room with a powerful spirit, it's not just dragons, but a powerful, powerful ancient spirit, it feels like your ears are popping. It's a pressure around you. You feel like you're on an airplane. You know, when your ears pop when you're on an airplane, it's like pressure. That's what it's like. So it's just this pressure. There's been other deities that's made me feel like that. Set is one who's made me feel that way, that I can remember off the top of my head. Jormungandr was another dragon, serpent energy. Tiamat, I mean, Jormungandr was the same. They are massive. She's as big. No, I don't want this to come across offensively to her, but as big as Godzilla or something. Like, imagine Godzilla. I know Godzilla is a kaiju, fictional. Hey, there could be sorry, I've kicked the camera. Could be an egregore of Godzilla out there. You never know. But you know how he's bigger than like skyscrapers? Tiamat is that big. She is massive. Regal. That's the word I want to use. Like a blue dragon. Now I know she's associated with water and maybe that's why. But the blue is deep blue. Like deep. What in England we call royal blue, which is almost navy. Like a very dark blue, but with an iridescence to her. And that's how she comes through, this blue dragon. Now, I'm not saying she's always going to look blue, but she does to me every time she's come through. There's one prominent time she came through that I'll never forget it as long as I live. It was a deity confirmation for someone, and this person was more left-hand path leaning. And when she came through, she manifested in what I can only describe as, it looked like the abyss. And I believe the person was doing the Cliffoth at the time. The Cliffoth, if you don't know, is the tree of death. It's the flip side of the Sephiroth. I think they're one in the same personally. It's like a mirror image of each other, yin and yang. But I digress. There is an aspect of it where it's a path you've got to work through towards basically enlightenment or unlocking extra knowledge. You know, you work through different spheres going up the tree, and the spheres represent different things, trials and tribulations that you've got to face. It's all like shadow work, really. It's real tough though. And the abyss, I believe it's the abyss, or is it the void? I get them mixed up. But there's one at the top that you've got to go through, which is meant to be like the harshest of harsh things, that you've got to go through to reach the top. And this person was going through it at the time, and she manifested in what I can only describe as the abyss. It was like a barren desert, but it wasn't just a desert. It was like, you know, when the ground is, it's not sand, it's scorched and cracked. It was just earth. It wasn't even sand, this desert, but it was so dry. The sky was red. It was dusty as hell. It was like dust clouds everywhere. In the distance, I could see mountains, and I could see tornadoes, and I could see her. Like, I can only, again, describe as Godzilla, when Godzilla roars, and she did a roar, and it was like a screeching howl that shook the ground. It shook everything. It was like, whoa. But she was in the distance. And I'll never forget just how freaking powerful I realised she was at that point. I was in awe, absolute awe of her at that point. Because I'd met dragons. Even Jormungandr, I mean, he's the world serpent. He's massive. But I don't know, there was something even more ancient than him, that she eclipsed it all, you know. That's the most powerful deity I've met. I feel like, you know, she is the primordial essence of life. And I know a lot of left-hand path practices talk about the draconic current, I believe they call it, and you know, there is some truth in that. I don't believe it's fully the way that some people paint it out to be, But yes, there is a truth in it, definitely, that the draconic aspect of things is so primordial, and it's intrinsic to life as we know it, you know. It's very much like I was watching, I just want to name it like the fury of life. I don't know why I want to call it the fury of life, but I just feel like that's the right thing to say. Like, it was like Mother Earth lashing out. You know, I mean, I didn't feel threatened because I knew it wasn't at me or anything. But just in general, you know, we do abuse this planet. We do. We take it for granted so much. And if Tiamat is just one aspect of our creation, and it might just be, not just be, you know, it's not just our planet itself, but it's a good way of putting it across that we need to show it more respect. We need to show ourselves more respect, each other more respect as well. Everything. I felt this like, frustration. Anyways, that's how she comes across. Now, because I don't know her that well, I mean, what does she want in terms of offerings and things? I mean, I think that's going to be very, very personal, given how primordial she is with you. I think she wants dedication and sacrifice. And when I say sacrifice, I don't mean like unaliving things or people. It's sacrifice of things that you cling to. So like if you've got bad habits, well, she'll want you to give them up. If you know, if there's something you really like, can you give it to her in her honor? You know, things that mean things. So it's not about dominating you as a human. It's not about taking anyone's life or anything so dark. It's more about what will you do for her? What would you give up for her? If you want her help, someone so primordial, if you want to show thanks and show that you respect her, and for her to teach you her wisdom, and for you to, you know, gain that respect in turn, well, what are you going to do for her? You know, to show yourself. It's like someone who you've really got to prove yourself. I feel like she's saying that to me, that, you know, if you want to become your most powerful self, your most fulfilled and whole self, well, for one, bad habits, you need to kick them for a start. But also, what are you going to give up? Because this is just the material plane. And us as humans, we cling to a lot of material things. I know I do. So what are you going to give up for her? You know, if you say something that brings you joy, are you going to do it in her honour? Are you going to, you know, give more time to her when you could be doing something else? I hope that's making sense. I feel like that's ultimately the greatest show of respect you can give her, especially as a creator goddess. And I feel like that resonates with me as well, with my experience with Hecate, who does have this creator aspect to her. And I do know that even little things, I'll never forget where Hecate this is. I was on a real kick for cream soda, if you know what that is. It's a certain drink. I can't stand it now, but for some reason it was my favourite drink at the time. Now I feel like it's Hecate. Got me like, makes me feel sick. I have a sweet tooth anyways, but I remember giving it to her, like sacrificing my last one to her, even though I was really enjoying that. Like that's what it means, if you get what I mean. Like, you know, something you really get pleasure out of. I'll sacrifice it and I'll give it to you. That's what it means as a sacrifice. You know, giving something up that means a lot to you, or, you know, that's what she means. So I hope this helped. That's my take on Tiamat. That's how I see her. Very powerful, very amazing. Yeah, very intense as well. You know, people all the time, and I'm the same. I just want to finish this video by saying this. We say don't start with deities, but I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I said that, because I did it myself. I started with Hecate in my practice. I think people say it because there's some deities you can easily pee off. But if you're going to pee a deity off, you've just got to show them respect. Even if you don't get along with all the deities or you don't want to work with deities, like, just show the energy respect. And go from there. Be willing to learn and be willing to change if needs be. It doesn't mean changing yourself, but to change certain behaviours, especially ones that might be problematic. I feel like that's what deity work's about. They're here to help us to become the best versions of ourselves we can be, to ultimately help each other and help the planet, I suppose. Help us as a collective, the human race. So when it comes to Tiamat, I was going to say she might not be for beginners, but really, who am I to say? All I would say is just show her respect, and it's going to be a learning curve from there, basically. So yeah, if you made it this far, you may as well hit subscribe. And until next time, stay safe, stay witchy. Bye.